Hey everybody, welcome to the Sunday Fractals list. Let's try to knock this out in 30 minutes or less. I've already got my list here of potential buy and sell from my signaler. Very simple, it just looks for potential fractals. So let's run through them, and then if I have some time, I may make another video or add on to the end of this video a few from last week that might still be valid. All right, let's run through these. So we have AUD CAD giving us a potential buy. It's also important to note today is, well, it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. But tomorrow is a US bank holiday. So I probably won't be trading until Tuesday unless something just lines up. But let's see. So we're being presented with a potential buy for this week. It's in an uptrend for the last couple weeks. I mean, we've got a couple green bars. I don't know that this really reacted off of anything significant. And we've just pushed up over. So not much in this one. I mean, it may pull back this week, giving a potential for a buy later in the week. But I wouldn't buy it as it sits. And things like this, I just drop into a purple list to get out of the way. Here we had AUD/USD presenting us with a potential buy opportunity just based on this fractal. Not a fan of buying it this moment, but maybe if we see something come back down into that area, that might be the buy opportunity. We just wiped that liquidity low. We're in an uptrend. Buying makes sense. I would say, first glance, I saw it here, this pin down, and then the move up. And then you look at that on the daily, and you can see that little block right there. So that looks like it did some work. So this fractal is in the direction of the trend potentially, unless it just trades sideways. But right now, not given a lot to work from for the week. Drop that in a purple list. Ideas from last week. So here we have presenting as a buy. So we're thinking about this candle for the week. That's all I'm thinking about. This candle for the week. What could it do, and would it respect this? So looking at the daily, while looking at that point, I see this. So it looks like we reacted from that level, and we didn't really break high. Could we expect to maybe pull back a little bit and then move up into liquidity here? It's a thought. So what I would think is maybe on a lower time frame, this wick looks like it came down and went wick to wick with this day. So that might have been the cleanup, but there could be something either here or in here worth looking at that we might bounce from to buy up from. The qualities I look for are just retraceability, like where could it retrace to? Would it retrace lower? This is a pretty clear drop, move up. So that to me looks like a banker's move or an order block, however you want to describe it. And just where's the liquidity? So this being the beginning of a downtrend, people are selling, and their stop losses are up above these areas. So would it make sense to come up here, clean up, grab liquidity and then continue down or continue up. Both kind of make sense, which is a good thing. So what I'd hope to see is something like this. And I could see that happening within this singular weak candle, right? This candle would have a wick, and then it would start to expand. It could very well be one red candle followed by a green candle, in which case we'd have to look at it next week. Long story short is I like it for a buy. I just kind of want to see on a lower time frame where to buy from. So right now I'm going to mark that point and throw a fib on here so that when I come back and look at it on a lower time frame, I can think about buys. The daily is down, but meaning the daily is trending down. If we were to throw fractals, we'd see up here, down here, up here, and then a lower low, lower high, expecting a lower low. But there's liquidity up here that might be taken. So I'll look at it on a lower time frame. AUDNZD asking us if we want to buy. And right now, it's in a bit of a pickle. It's in a spot where it's doing both, they're presenting both. So basically, is there something below this point we need to worry about? And you could be concerned with this, but I'd venture to say that that's all clean. If you look at the wicks, this wick up, this wick down, this does not have a wick on it, but then we come back down to it and take off. So this being a rescue to the last trapped candle back here, very possible. Asking ourselves, do we want to try to buy this week? Yeah, I don't see a reason to not attempt to buy. We could just wait. I would wait until we get into this area down here, which looks pretty much like the 68 or 61 area. Lines up with that last down candle. There's a bit of a gap in there. I'd say that's a good spot to look. So that's for the buy idea. For a potential sell idea, just as valid. If you just pretend like this fractal isn't here and you want to sell right now from that fractal, that's a valid idea. Not at this moment, maybe after spreads settle, maybe after you see a breakdown in structure on a lower time frame. But it would make sense that we respect this high, bounce off of it, come down and do the cleanup work, and then go. The less moves we can have in between our current idea and what we want our outcome to be, the more likely it is. So selling from here is probably a good idea. Trying to set a limit order here for a buy, I wouldn't do. There's just too many unknowns and wait for it to get down there first. But that for a sell makes sense. It's just not in alignment with the current fractal. EG, probably going to break that logic. I don't know why that's like the only one at stickies. Escape. Yeah, okay. So anyway, sorry. This looks like this fractal is what's telling us that we have a potential buy opportunity. Boy, we've bounced off that level a couple times pretty hard. So I wouldn't trust it to hold. Yeah, I wouldn't trust that to hold. You may see some bounce off of it, but then it's going to sell again. So taking the buy from right where it is, there's not enough supporting evidence. I mean, you've got this back here, but then you've got all this free floating nothing below it. So it reacting here is possible. It's more likely to blow through down below it. So I don't really like that one. Whatever we had on there, EN is telling us that we could potentially buy from this fractal. And that was sort of a historic, I'm just kind of looking back in time, pretty far back, but just like that's kind of a historical support level, which isn't a bad thing on like a monthly, weekly levels. Support lines are a thing, I guess, anyway. But the daily structure is all down, and it looks like more than likely it's going to react from this and go down like that. That's what I would venture to guess happens. So I wouldn't be interested in a buy on this. Lots of nonsense there. Okay, GN telling us we have a potential buy. That is so annoying that is like the only tooltip that doesn't, that like sticks. If that makes sense. Stop it. There we go. Okay. It makes sense because you want to draw multiple times, but there should be a hotkey or something for it. All right. A buy. I like a buy. Buy makes sense here. The weekly's been moving up. It's done pretty good clean work. And we're moving up into new liquidity from our current open. So I would go ahead and say that we're potentially moving into an uptrend here. At least it kind of looks that way, right? So we're either going to get a nice solid move up into new liquidity, a retracement, and then another buy opportunity, or we could just see this thing take off. I don't want to FOMO, so I do like the structure though. I think even if we are moving up to achieve some goal, and we look back, this probably has something in it on a lower time frame, like that up down move. There's probably something in there that we might react from, and then we've got this back here. So yes, I'm looking at a buy. I guess I kind of skipped ahead. Now I'm looking at targets, right? So basically when I do my analysis in this week and this local price action, these will probably be the higher level areas I'm interested in trying to take profit at, or not trying to push my luck against, right? Once we get up here, I'm going to say, oh, okay, well, probability of this being a turnaround point is high. Same with this one. So if I do take a buy, I'm not going to try to push my luck past one of these 2 points, just depending on how it looks. So I'd be interested to see how this day plays out. It's already gapped up. And we're looking at GN. So we should expect it to be pretty active this week. It should be fairly independent of any any US holiday. Yeah, so I would look for this candle, the current weekly candle, about 50%. and there's sort of this thing down in here, right? So we've got this push down, then up, didn't break the high, comes down and rescues, breaks the high, comes down again, breaks the high again. So I'd look for it to come to in here somewhere on a lower time frame in reference to this block. And then for a buy. All right, let's look at sells. U-shaft is, I'm just looking at the bigger picture. We're kind of floating down here in the middle of nothing. So we had this push up 2 weeks ago. And so after this accumulation range happened and we pushed down, now we had to push up. And would this candle potentially be a sell candle? Could be. I still don't like it because of what's back here. So like this accumulation down here followed by this abrupt move up is kind of indicative of a turnaround type pattern. Like the fact that we paused in this area, accumulated, distributed, and then moved up away from it, and now back down into it, actually looks more like a buy idea. Because we've basically broken structure above it. Looking at it on the daily. All right, so moving down, bottoming out potentially, pushing up, rescuing, pushing up again, question mark, right? Or is it respecting the structure? So again, just a couple unknowns, right? Did it push up to here to rescue here? And now we're gonna see it drop away again. And the reason I don't like to play it is, well, currently I wouldn't like to play it is because of the price back here. All right, just looking at, you see, it's just accumulated right in that spot. So that could very well be a Wyckoff turnaround type deal. That could very well be a buy happening right now. It goes against my signal, so I won't play it. It is interesting. If you want to play it as a Wyckoff or a trend reversal, you could play a buy, but it's been such a strong downtrend on the weekly and the daily, I'd definitely kind of wait for that structure to form into an uptrend and then look for buys. There's plenty of other opportunities. That one I'm just going to move off. It's not strong enough. Like maybe another US pair will provide the look, the thing we kind of look for, but here again, it looks like USD JPY bottomed out, moved up, retraced, and will be continuing to move up. So does this fractal become a fractal? It could if we don't break it this week. But do I see a sell opportunity that is within my risk tolerance? No, because if we just look at the currently presented sell opportunity, and that wasn't it. That's the threat. The currently presented sell opportunity is basically now, right? It's up, down, up, expecting another down. But look at all the liquidity up here. So for us to one of two things can happen here. We can either go up above it to get to the liquidity and then retrace. We could just respect it normally, like where my yellow line is in this area. Right in here, we could respect it and fall away again. But the probability of one of those two things happening are both pretty much the same. I don't know, and so it's not a good trade for me to make. And also just looking at the MACDs, like the daily MACD is green. This one's trending towards a crossover. And just knowing fundamentals, the USD JPY tends to be sort of a safety pair. As you know, the US economy stabilizes, we should expect the USD JPY to respond accordingly. All right, so that one, not a big fan of. I'm going to put it on my purple list. Whoops. Here's a good trick. You can go to the list and then just USD JPY. Yeah. Okay. CAD CHF. So I believe last week we were given maybe a potential buy. Didn't quite retrace. It went wick to wick with the week right there last week. And then it pushed up away. Now it's asking us, do we want to sell from this level? And I don't really want to. I don't think this is a good spot to sell from right here. There's just the risk of it moving above this point for up here. There's the possibility of it doing what you would expect and collapsing down from here. Right, like moving up just a little bit and then down. But this whole thing looks like an upward sort of ramp for the week. The wicks are slowly stepping up. Very sticky. There we go. So, sorry. So to sell it, not a big fan. You can see the momentum has started to cross over. It's moving up. And it has the potential to impulse up. Maybe selling it to get to the place where it impulses from, but I don't really like to do that. Like, it depends on the circumstance. I don't like to buy or sell retracements. I like to buy or sell expansions. And this, to me, looks like a retracement that I should be looking for a buy from. It does not look like an expansion to the downside, right? This looks like expansion, retracement, expansion, at least to me. So not appealing. GA, yeah, okay, a little more appealing. Yeah, so I like general aspects of it so far. I like that this fractal, the most recent one suggesting that I sell, occurred from what looks like a previous structure back in here. All right, if we look at the weekly wick to wick, right, we basically overlapped those wicks. We're in a general downtrend. There's always the risk of it going further than this point, but I don't see any local reason for it too. If we look back far, sure, we see stuff back here, but we can't worry ourselves with that too much. We gotta take a calculated risk. So local price structure, there isn't really anything above except for this weird wick. Whatever this weird thing is right here, I'd want to look at on a lower time frame and look at it probably on multiple feeds to make sure that's not just like an FXCM blip. You know, is that manipulation happening on FXCM only or whatever feed they get? So, but I do like the potential for the sell, and this very well could be the same sort of deal though, where it's expansion, retracement, expansion in the upward direction. So I'd want to see a good target. And I don't really see one. Right, there's nothing down here that looks like, and I'm using both, and I'm looking here and here. So from that point, which is the most recent low fractal, if I wanted to sell right now, I'd be looking for it to retrace basically and then expand, right? So it's kind of invalid unless I think it's just going to continue the downtrend, and it very well could. All right, I'm going to wrap up this idea with just simply saying it follows the rules, right? It has the candle right here, it dropped away, it's come back up, it's interacted once again with that candle, creating a fractal. We drop away again, this candle, or the next candle, we may expect to see a sell opportunity. Sorry if you heard that, it was very loud. May expect to see a sell opportunity. And that's about as close as I can get with it. So I'm going to leave it on my list and look for a more robust entry. Right now I don't have one, at least as far as I can see. But I do like it. It follows the rules. It's with the trend. It has a reason for creating the fractal. The fractal looks pretty significant. On a lower time frame, it looks like an accumulation. Right? We come up, we accumulate, we drop away, we distribute, etc., etc. GBP CHF, asking if I want to sell, pretty much already invalid. This candle here, I'll be surprised if we make it through the day without that candle breaking over to get up to here in the next couple days. So that's not a sell. NZD CAD. Asking if we want to sell. It really is building up. This looks like the left side of a structure that may break down, if that makes sense. Kind of got to think about what the rest of the structure will look like, but it's been building up. See, we got the build up, there's the build up, the drop, the build up, the drop. Less significant. The build up, the drop. The gap down, we're on a build up again. So I wouldn't want to sell it right now, and there's nothing, this structure in here is not wild enough, exaggerated enough. This type right here, like that back in there, with that down drop and up move, which created that fractal, that's a good example of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this wick to basically be comprised of almost an engulfing candle, something like that. That obviously did work in the past, broke the local structure, comes back down, And you can even see here, this is the fractal, this is the next day, this is the day I would have been signaled for this fractal. And in this day, we get a minor retracement and an expansion. So, right, with these couple red days, the expansion. So that is a good example of what I'm looking for. This doesn't have that quite severe sort of move that I would look for. It looks too soft. There's some pretty clear liquidity below it, but can I trust that my stop loss will hold above this level? I don't think so. I think that looks like a liquidity trap to me. Let me pause this real quick. All right, we're right at the 30-minute mark, so here's some bonus. What I've done is taken everything that was on those two red and green lists and just turned them into a blue list. So these are the pairs that I might be interested in looking at, monitoring for the week, establishing a bias on for the week, buy or sell, based on which list it came from, which you can pretty much tell by the fractal. What we're going to do now is look at basically confirmed fractals. So these are fractals that are confirmed as far as the definition of a fractal is concerned. So here we have USD CAD, and you can see here's the fractal 1, 2. We're currently on this week right here. So are we going to see a continuation of this downtrend? I don't think so. It just looks like we've been on a hell of a downtrend. It's hard to say, well, the downtrend will just continue though, because look how choppy and wicky it's been, and it's moving sideways. You look on the daily, it looks pretty sideways. The MACD on the daily is crossing over back and forth, and what that basically means is the moving averages are starting to converge, and we could expect it to move the other way. So I don't like this one for the bias that it's presenting for the week. If I were to play it, like just hypothetically, I'd be looking to see if there's anything significant, and there's not because it already happened. Yeah. So what I was looking for here is there a reason for this current week's candle to come up, fill this gap, and then drop? So using that previous wick low, but you can see that happened on Friday. So it's hidden within this last week's candle, that move up and the drop that filled in any sort of bad price action. And now we're kind of free to do what we need to do. So I don't like it for the sell. And these ones I'm just going to unflag because this is all bonus. So CHF JPY, get rid of all this junk. Not that it's junk, but not valid anymore. There we go. All right, this is presenting us with a sell. It's probably going to invalidate that just looking at it. So that's not interested in that one. Sorry if there's background noise. This is presenting a sell. I don't like where that, it's just hard for me to say yes to that as a sell. It looks like the current week could push down, but not much. It very well could continue to sell off. But you can see how it sort of made this bottom right here. Well, that's not a bad thing. It's made this bottom. It's maintaining this level. Maybe we see a small retracement and then a sell-off. And then what are we targeting though? So we've got this in the way. So this is concerning to me, like something like this is either a target or it's the place where price is trying to get to turn around anyway. right? And it could be both, but is it worth taking and worth taking the risk on? So that is an excellent both entry for a long position and target for a short position. We're building liquidity above it, so this makes sense. Right, if we're building liquidity here, what we're doing is putting a bunch of pool of money for people going long, thinking this is a support line. People are going long, and they're putting their money down here. We then use that money to make the move we want to make, which is this. And then whether we, continue down from there, I don't know, but that is the question. So can we find a place where we can enter short and use this as our target? And then is it worth it? And to me, the answer is not really. I mean, it's tough. Where would we be looking? Maybe back here. So like, I guess you'd have to use a lot of ifs in this statement, which I don't like to do. If we move up to this level, and if this is maintained, and if we get some sort of breakdown in price on the daily, and if we get some sort of retracement to that on the daily, then I'd sell it. That's way too many steps away from me caring. I'm likely to pick it up on a scanner before this move happens. But that does kind of look like what it will do. Long story short there is it's not in the position to sell. Do I think that this week it could get to a position to sell? Potentially. I think I can just hit escape, but still. So could it get to a position to sell this week? Sure. It could come up to here to sell off. That's what I would want to see happen. This will most likely just be a wick that comes down, does the work, and then moves up the other way, unfortunately. So I don't like to play those unless it's for the entry. I don't like to play that for the win. Blah, blah, old ideas. EuroCAD is presenting a sell. Here, looking at down here. So we sell, but then we bounce off of this level and we come back up. We fill the gap in. And then what do we think this candle will do? I think we're riding momentum here. If we look at the progress of this candle through the week, this candle opened here, moved up in the beginning of the week. Here, let's use up here. Opened here. The wick of the bottom wick of that candle is pretty much just the gap, like the volatility from the open. And then it immediately moved up. And now it's coming back down. To me, that looks like a buy from here to go up here. If that makes sense. So this looks, so the question is it this, where this fractal, drop, rescue, drop, in which case I'm looking for the progress of events in this candle right here. The progress of events in this candle indicate that it is a push up and then nothing. It's like it is just a push up and then a small drop to where it is now. So I would expect this candle see, that's a tough one. See, if you have to think about it that much, move on. That's something I've learned. So I'll move on. EuroCAD has some potential. I can't really see it right now. I'll come back and look at it. If you see something that's you're just like, oh yeah, there it is, right? Then go for it. But if I don't see it immediately, then it's not worth banging my head against the wall for. And really the question I'm asking myself is, is this fractal high going to hold? If we come up here to this area to sell from, is this fractal high going to hold? Or is it going to get broken for a higher level target, or just liquidity seeking to the upside? And did we react from this candle back here? Is this fractal the reaction to this? And is it going to hold? Right? So obviously we've got back here, right there, got that fractal low that dipped into it, had a pretty strong reaction. You can see 2 days, there's the drop, the 2-day move up, the pull back, the move up, bit of a collapse, but still within structure. And now what? And the question is, the answer is a little murky. So I move on. EJ. Well, guess what I have to do? There we go. Unsticky. Saying sell, but I don't like it. Just straight up, like, it's pushed up against the liquidity. It's been building, and probably it's going to remain valid because these two candles have painted. But what do I use for my stop loss? It definitely doesn't look like a sell structure. So not really playable for me. GBP CAD. I wonder if this is valid from this week or. Again, selling. It's probably going to violate that. Like, it's going to remain true, but it's going to do some crap like in here, I can imagine. Like, this fractal remains true for 1-2 candles. The next candle violates it. This is an uptrend-ish. We don't know for sure, but it's moving up. So if it were to collapse from somewhere, where would that be? I don't know. It's just there's not enough information there. It doesn't look right. All right. Buys. If it had those yellow lines, it probably means I marked it up last week. So we're probably looking for the buy opportunity from last week. I still like this buy opportunity. It's fairly gentle, meaning we've been moving up, we've been having retracements, and we've been having expansions, and it's fairly clean, just following the daily. If you follow it and you just look at price, it all looks fairly clean. Maybe right here. And we come back down and we expand again. So potential buy here I like. Let's try to get a little more detail on it. If I want to do a buy, shouldn't expect price to go below there. There shouldn't be any major reasons for price to go below there, and you can see there aren't. It's all real clean. We've moved up into new liquidity, so we could expect a retracement. Do we expect that retracement really to come down past the previous week? Right, and you can see the previous week was a bit of a doji. So it's hard to say yes to that. So it's hard to expect. I wish there was a better way to draw a candle. Maybe I can think of one. But what I would expect is a wick for this week that comes down and doesn't break below there, right? If it does, and it gets down into this area, that could be a buy opportunity. So one of two things will either, it either looks like it's creating a bit of an M pattern, where it does this, and then up. For some reason that looks like a cartoon. Or it respects the previous week and it does this. Right, it just keeps going up. Escape. Escape do it? No. Escape. No. Control V. I don't even know how do you end that? Anyway, sorry, that's unimportant. So again, it just has too many outcomes. I'll leave it on maybe a purple list or something, but to say where to buy, that's the difficult part, right? And then are we going to collapse from up here and move into some lower level liquidity because we've just moved up over previous liquidity? We could expect to carry that liquidity down and then buy at a lower price point. So tough to say. I like it, but it's tough. ADJPY. So right there, that fractal basically is what we're playing. So what do we expect here? You can see that that played out. It pushed up. We did buy, but where do you buy from, etc. So I don't really see any. I don't see any potential in that. The MACD's peaked out. I do that comparatively. You can see kind of just how high it gets in the past, which tells you the amount of momentum. It's also clearly pushed up into this area right in here, which is a volatile reversal point area right in there. So do I like it for a buy? No. Do I like this for a buy? Yeah, we could play a buy on that. Pretty easy for me to see that. It looks like, so fractal low, that's the way I used to do it, starting with fibs. Now I barely use them, but right in there. And the reason I like to buy, you do have this threat of how far up is it going to go, but it also has a reason to go up there, which is good, right? We've got the need to get to that point potentially. Speculatively, we have the need to get there, so that it makes a decent target. We've been building liquidity on the high side and seeking liquidity on the high side. So every time we make a new high, that's basically liquidity seeking, and then we come down and we distribute it, and then we move up again and seek new liquidity and come down and distribute it over and over and over again, and then in inverse, and then sometimes it's just sideways. So long story short, I would be interested in seeing something like that happen from there to there. And I'm not looking at pips, I'm looking at risk to reward. It's about 3.5. Doesn't mean you can't do better on a lower time frame, but the general idea of this fractal getting respected, us retracing down to some logical area, and then having a place where we need to get to makes sense. So it's worth looking at. It's even worth a pending order in my opinion. CAD JPY buying? No. Pushing up against this point, basically right at it. If anything, we're in sell territory. All right, so that leaves us with basically what I call confirmed fractals, right? Ones that are going to be there forever. This will always be a fractal regardless of what happens in this current week. That doesn't mean it's good or better or bad or anything. It just is what it is. This EuroCAD I like the look of. I just haven't quite sorted it out in my head. Like, where are we going to come back up to sell from? And are there threats above that point? Oops. I want to look at it from sort of I know that's not the right way to draw it, but that's how it makes sense to me. I'm looking at the retracement from this move from here to here, and it's already moved down, but I kind of want to understand how far up it's moved. And also like this, right? From this point to this point to retrace, to sell off. That kind of does make sense to me. Looking in this area, right? Kind of have a build up and then a sell off from that area. And I'm going to leave that there because I like it. Put myself a little yellow line there. That one might not play out this week, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. All right, so these were the confirmed ones, and then these are the ones that are potentials, but both buy and sell because I just jumbled them all into one list. And that's it. I hope you guys found this useful, and have a good trading week. Take care.